Hi tramps! Today we're going to be looking at my soldering setup. Special treat for you today. Yo, what is up? Apart from the sky, wagwan and big up your nan. So, I thought I would do a little video showing you what my wonderful soldering setup is. Okay, that's a slight embellishment of the truth. Actually, I thought I would tidy up my workstation, and I didn't really fancy it, and I needed a good excuse to actually get it tidy, so I thought if I do a video, then I'll be forced to tidy it up, so that's what's happened. Right, and the other thing is, disclaimer, I am not a professional electronics engineer. No. My profession is, I'm actually a doctor. So let's start with, where are we going to go? Let's start with the big daddy. Let's start with the soldering iron. You can probably see what I use there, but before I came to this absolute beauty, I've tried everything. You know, I've tried the cheap little Chinese units, and I've found that what will happen is the little bits, see these little bits, will dissolve, or they get loose as they warm up and they fall apart. I mean, look at the state of that. That's terrible. And I've actually had an entire soldering iron just break in my hands. And the other thing about it is the temperature control is often very poor. It's just a little resistor. So you're just limiting the power you're putting into it. It's not the same as adjusting the temperature. So I left those behind. Then I graduated to a soldering iron that was from WorkZone, which is an Audi brand. Yeah, I'm plush me. And the actual thing melted about there, completely melted. So that was no good. Then I moved on to a brand called Antec, but I found that the tips, they have a little catch around, this is off by the way at the moment, little catch around them, and that would get loose when the soldering iron heated up and the tips kept falling off, and I once burnt my trousers on them. So then finally, after lots of searching around and going on Reddit and getting tips, everyone kept mentioning this brand. This is Hakko or Hakko. Not sure how you pronounce it. Don't really care either. But the particular model that I've got is the FX888D. And this has been revolutionary. This has transformed my soldering little life. I know it looks like a kid's toy, and I reckon I'd actually sell more units if it wasn't so brightly coloured, but it's not plastic. That is solid metal. The base is solid metal, proper metal there, nice and heavy, weighted. And what is so brilliant about it, well, there's loads of things that are good about it. Number one is it's got a full temperature feedback loop. So if we fire it up, what actually is happening here is the soldering iron itself has got a temperature sensor in. Now you can switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit. I'm British, so hey, I'm going to use Celsius because, let's be honest, that's the units that most of the world uses. And you can just change the target temperature really easily. So if I want to change it, and it's got big range, it goes up to 490 degrees, which is whopping. So let's just go for 320 there. And what it will do is the soldering iron senses how hot it is, and then it heats the soldering iron up until the temperature sensor hits that temperature, and then it just gives it little tiny pulses of heat to keep it at that temperature. And obviously if you stick it on something quite cold, then it will it'll pump more heat into it. And what's so great about this, right, is that if I'm soldering semiconductors, you know, things that are very temperature sensitive, I'll pop it onto about 320 degrees and I'll be pretty quick with my soldering. But if I then need to go and solder something like a big chunky connector that's going to wick all the heat away, fine, no problem. I can just bump it up, bring it up to say 420. I mean, that's really quite hot. You would see that glowing red. And there we go. The temperature is rising, and it brings it up to temperature. So it's a great little unit, and it does control the temperature beautifully. I haven't burnt out any transistors or any chips at all since I've used it. The cables are a silicone, okay, which means that if you put your soldering iron accidentally on your cable, you don't burn through it and get a shock. And then the tips don't dissolve. How good is that? I've used this tip now for probably the best part of a year, and it's, you know, yes, okay, it's looking a bit worn and I do slightly misuse it, but the tip isn't dissolving, which is so great. The holder's solid, comes with a nice wire brush. I am really pleased with this. Just going to dial it back down to to 340, which is usually where I sort of have it for general purpose stuff. And then you'll see what I'll do is there you are, it's now cooling down. So it's stopped pumping the heat into the iron. The iron's cooling down. If I blow on it, cools down a bit faster, you see. So it's really doing that. Right, anyway, pop that off, let that cool down passively. So that's my Hakko, whatever you call it, soldering iron. They are about 150 quid. Not cheap, but this is a case of this will be the last soldering iron you'll ever buy. It is. I'm so pleased with it. And I only solder, at the weekends for a bit of lols, and sometimes in the evenings. So that's the soldering iron. Right, what should we show you next? Okay, next thing is the soldering mat. I'm not going to labour the point. Look, it's got flaps. I like flaps. It's silicone. So what's so great about this is you can put a hot soldering iron on it and it doesn't get set light or anything. The nice other thing about it is it's obviously insulating. So as long as you haven't got bits of wire fragment on there, you can lay a PCB directly down on here if you want. Really, really handy. And then as you pull out screws, you can stick them on here. There's little magnetic spots that will grip ferromagnetic stuff. The reason why mine's dusty is because I was sawing wood right next to it earlier today, so that was a bit stupid of me. Yeah, that's a mat. Not much more to say about that. It's a bloody mat. Up here, I have an earth point. So this is my earth point. It connects all the way through to my DC power supply, which has an earth on it. And attached to this is my antistatic strap. So there's a little resistor in there, mega ohm resistor, so you don't get a fatal shock if you accidentally go touching mains while you're wearing it. But what it does do is it draws static away from you so you can handle semiconductor components. And, I've put this little lead in the middle there so that I can reach all the way around my workstation and get on with things. So yeah, essential to have if you're doing semiconductors. I reckon you should always have them. I mean, how hard is it to do an earth? Answer is not very hard. Right, what next? So lighting. Lighting's really important, actually. You need to be able to see what you're doing. And in the medical world, I get super annoyed if I'm trying to do some sort of procedure and the lighting sucks. It's just the same in the soldering world. So what I've done is I've put these in. So this is a bit of LED conduit with a diffusion cover on, and inside there, I'm not going to take it off because it's to get back on. Inside there is some high CRI, colour reference index, I think it stands for, but 95% CRI LED strip that I got from AliExpress, and it's 12 volts, and it runs off a little 12 volt adapter down there. And what it does is it casts a nice high quality light over the work area. Then in addition, I've got this beast here. Let's bring it down. So this is my ring light magnifying glass Dewberry. Look at that. And unsurprisingly, you can put it over your work and you can see what you're doing. So look at my beautiful hands. Really useful, actually. This one runs off 5 volts. Yes, I should have got a 12 volt one, but I wasn't thinking. And you can have a bit of fun with it. You can change the intensity and change the color profile as well. I just stick on daylight. It's not as good quality white as that stuff up there. You have to take my word for that because it doesn't render very well on a screen. But, it's good enough for you to see what you're doing. So that kind of gives me a bit of extra overhead light as well. And the two together means any work down here, sorted. It's really good. So then we're going to come on to the bit that I think was probably the most elaborate path of engineering I had to take. And that's the helping hand. Now, helping hands, those things that help you hold onto a bit of PCB. And while you'll hold a bit of wire while you're soldering it. And I think most of us who've ever done any soldering probably started with something like this, which is known as, I think, a jeweler's helping hand. And you can get these for super cheap, but there's a reason they're super cheap, and that's because they're super crap. What you've got is you've got two little crocodile clips here. Let's get some more light on this. Two little crocodile clips. that what they do is they're just this sort of sheet metal crocodile clips that are a bit flimsy. You know, the teeth can dislocate with the slightest bit of oblique motion. So, you know, not that great. But the biggest problem with this is the moment you've got a PCB in front of you and you put the magnifying glass down to be able to look at it, the thing falls over. It's useless. It's absolutely useless. I've even tried putting blue tack on the end of it. I mean, that's all dusty now, so that's not going to work. But, you know, you soon realise that apart from holding a cable, I'd trust this to hold a little cable, it's not going to help me much. So then, you know, after many months of being frustrated with this, I'm lying, at many years, I graduated to one of these, which is a hex arm holder. And what you've got on these is you've got these, show it down here. You've got these little, so it shows you a nice chunky base. It doesn't fall over easily, but you've got these crocodile clips here, right? And they're attached to this flexible hose stuff. This is this is CNC hose. It's for when you got one of those machines. You can attach a lot bigger than that. It's a cheapo desktop one. You can attach these hoses and squirt air or coolant at the thing that you're machining, or you can even suck up a bit of fine dust if you want. And they're flexible, so you can bend them around. And they rely on friction, and actually they are pretty damn good. You can hold a PCB and bring the arms in, and you know it's all right. But the big problem is these alligator clips. They're just not sturdy enough. They're not up to the job. If I come in a bit closer, you'll see what I mean. First of all, they are, pull one out, they're prone to popping out because all they are is a standard alligator clip that they've gone and lashed a bit of plastic on one arm, yeah, and then they've put some heat shrink on to insulate it. And once again, this is one of these sheet metal clips. So it's got no real mass to it, and it's very easy to bend. So you end up in these annoying situations where if you put something in between the teeth and you twist it slightly, the teeth dislocate and you end up with deformed clips like that. The other problem with them is that the heat shrink, I have to get this right under the light, hang on. Let's see if you can see that there. Can you see there? There we go. The heat shrink erodes through. The teeth just chew through the heat shrink after a few months of use. So, and then if you have got a PCB in here and you want to adjust it, it's quite annoying. There's no real joint there. One will end up popping out, or you won't be able to rotate it. So, you know, it's all right, but it's not amazing. And you know, it's takes up a bit of space. But I liked these bits. I really liked the arms. I thought they were great. They, you know, enough friction to hold stuff. So that's when I went and engineered my own hack. And that's what this beast is. In fact, I'll bring it down so we can see it in action. Right, so, and I'll talk you through the different components and where I got it from. So first of all, I've told you about these CNC arms. The CNC pneumatic arms. I'm just turn this off, this light, because it's so much easier. Right, so you've got the CNC arms here. What I've done is I've shoved a bit of wood onto my equipment riser, and I've drilled little 12mm holes, and then I've just screwed in the thread, this is very soft wood, so the plastic thread was able to cut its own counter thread. And I've got 500 millimeters, it's 0.5 meter arms, and at the ends there was just this round nozzle. And then what I did, and these, for 3 of these, what did I pay? I think I've paid about £10 for 3 of these. Then what I did is I bought some of these beauties. Now these are they're like ball and socket mount heads. They're actually used in the photography world. But what's so good about them is that you've got 2 joints. You've got one ball joint there and one ball joint there, which means they can rotate like that, as well as flex in that direction and flex in that direction. So what I can do, if I unlock one, let's unlock a different one. There we go. You can move it around and reposition things as you like. You can also rotate your clip as well, and I'll come onto the clips in a second. And all I did was snip a little bit off the end of the pneumatic tubing so I could then jam this. This got a little thread on it, jam that in there, and I just screwed it in, and it's held nice and firmly. And then on the other side, what I've done is I've got these clips here. Oh, by the way, these are known as, hang on, they're called ball shoe mounts, and for 3 of them, it cost me £9. Once again on AliExpress, you know that perennial crap shot that is AliExpress. So yeah, 3 of those cost me £9, and they're all metal, which is nice. And then what I did at the end is I jammed on a clip. And the way I got the clip on is I basically drilled a hole through the plastic of the clip, and it was slightly smaller than the thread that's on the end of this, and I screwed it on. And then this little thing here allows you to tighten it up and pinch onto the clip. Right. Now the clips themselves, what I've done, so you can see them here. Oh, yeah, I'll show you how I've mounted it. There you go. Sort of. I said it was a hack. So yeah, and what these are? These are flat 5 amp flat crocodile clips. And for 3 of them, I've got a black one, a grey one here, and a red one. 3 of them, princely sum of 4 of your British pounds. What I liked about them was that the teeth are completely flat, or rather, they don't really have teeth. They've just got a flat surface, so they actually grip to a tip, which is nice. I did put a bit of this stuff on. This is a bit of adhesive foam. That was just to make it a bit extra grippy. And I did think I was going to need to upgrade the springs, but actually in practice, I found that it grips absolutely fine. And so the 3 together has ended up creating this thing, which I love. Now, what you'll notice over here is there is an extra pneumatic tube that I've then lashed on with a bit of LX tape. Now, there's a reason for this. These 3 tubes are 500mm, which means they all have a natural frequency that's pretty similar. They all sort of oscillate at the same natural frequency. So if I take that off and give this a twang, it'll go boing, 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 and that was annoying me. So I thought, well, if I go and lash a shorter length and brace it against part way up this, I will give this a different fundamental frequency, and then the thing doesn't jitter around so much. So that's what that's all about. It's pretty good for gripping. What's so nice about it is that you can, if you want to reorientate the PCB, you can just loosen off your joints and then move these around in space. And a combination of your ball joints, which do everything, and your flexible hosing means you can get this anywhere. You can get this anywhere across your workstation as long as your tube's long enough. So I got the reason why I went for 3 hands: 2 to hold the PCB, 1 to hold new wires. So let's just pop that on there. And this is the kind of view you end up with. So if I wanted to solder, this is through my glass. So what I can do is bring this up there. That's about right. So if I wanted to do some soldering, it's dead easy. You know, I can clearly see what's going on. I can see everything I need. If I want to zoom in a bit more, just bring it up. There we go. Right. So, you know, I can easily get in there, solder, beautiful, all under my ring light, and it's just dead easy to work and very pleasant. And, you know, nice and chunky. You can put tons of force on this. Obviously, if you put loads of force, it will start to move the pneumatic tubing, but you don't need that much force to solder with. So yeah, how to build one yourself? Well, look, get some pneumatic CNC tubing for about a tenner for 3 decent pieces. Get yourself some of these ball shoe mounts that are for photography. I paid, about a tenner for 3 of these, maybe £9. And then these clips, these are flat 5 amp crocodile clips that I have just modded, put a bit of sticky stuff on there. They are about £4 and lash it all together and you end up with an amount. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I am going to upgrade. I'm going to go for even fatter stuff, take out some of this oscillation, but you know, it's been really useful for me. A couple of other things I will mention though, a couple of other really useful tools that I highly recommend, and this is where I'm betraying my profession, my medical background, is a good old haemostat. Now, These are used in medicine for tying off vessels, clip onto a vessel, and then you ligate it. So this is the normal way you'd hold it when you're using it. But they're fantastic for handling components. So, you know, if I'm sitting here and I'm wanting to do some stuff, and let's say I want to position a component over a hole, it doesn't matter even if I make the component super hot. I know it's a solder tip, but just go with me on this one. You know, I can just steer it into place with a hand holding a haemostat, and with my other hand that's currently holding my phone, bring the soldering iron in, and I can solder it. And you know, I'm not going to get burnt. Get out. Because this is, you know, big enough and long enough. And the other thing that's good for is it's got this ratchet. So if you want to protect a component from heat, what you can do is you can just put the ratchet on and click it, and then that will sit there and grip the component legs, and the metal will conduct away some of that heat. So it's really useful. So I think these are way better. These things are way better than what you may have seen in certain kits, which is soldering kits, which are these things. These are so-called precision forceps, but the problem with them is that because they're again made of sheet metal, you can see that the tip gets quite easily bent, and they can't apply that much force. And you'll find that for picking thin things up like component legs, unless they're absolutely brand new, they tend to just let them slip through the teeth. Whereas this thing, this haemostat, has got beautiful serrated, grippy things on the ends, and it means that. So I've not got my macro lens on at the moment. Do you know? We've got a magnifying glass. Why don't we use it? So you can see there's the serrations there. Much better at gripping things. So I highly recommend these. 2 of those on AliExpress. Don't bother buying sterile. You don't need it. You're not operating on a human with it. You're operating on electronics, unless it's sterile electronics, in which case, God help you, I wouldn't know why you're watching one of my videos. You can get these £6 a 2. So I've got a couple of those, and they are brilliant. And then the final thing, which is probably overkill, is my dental forceps. Now these are what a dentist uses for wrenching out a tooth and pulling out a retained root, as if they've been trying to get your tooth out and the root's broken off. You can go fishing around for it. I use this. These aren't ratcheted at all. I use this for if I have got a component that I need to wrench out. I can just apply a lot of force and pull it out. But again, it's also good for wicking away heat as well because it's so chunky. So this is sort of my brute force pliers. But you know, if you buy one thing, they're about. By the way, these are about £12, and they are the serrations at the end are so good they really do grip things firmly. Well, they not really surprising when they wrench out teeth. But you don't really need these unless you are bending lots of metal and things where you wouldn't want to ruin a haemostat. But you know what? Forget these. Forget that crap. That yesterday's news. Get a haemostat. They are superb for soldering. And that's it. That's my little tour of soldering stuff. I've shown you my Hakko soldering iron. I then showed you my solder mads. We then had a look at the various bits of lighting that I had. Let's pop these back on. Hey, there we go. Let there be light. My little earth point there with my antistatic strap. Then I showed you, what else did I show you? Oh yeah, the helping hand, which, you know, I'm proud of that. My angle poise light with the magnifying glass. And last but not least, 2 really useful tools, but particularly the haemostat there. And that's that. So if any of this has been useful for you, great. Like and subscribe, or don't. I don't really give a rat's ass. And word to your mother.